Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. It's your boy D Black coming with you with the SummerSlam Night 1 review. Alright, well, SummerSlam tonight, it wasn't a bad card, it wasn't a good card. I mean, some of the matches were okay. I mean, it wasn't nothing electrifying. I mean, nothing of tonight's show was electrifying. But doesn't mean that it was actually bad and stuff. There was a few things that happened, and we'll get to it when we get to it. All right. The first match was Io Sky against Liv Morgan for the Women's World Title. All right, this match was okay. I mean, I think that this was probably the best match of the night. You know, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people out there that will disagree, but I think Io Sky and Liv Morgan did pretty well in the ring. They kind of told the story in the ring and stuff. Um, and you knew that at one point in the match somewhere that Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez were going to interfere in the match, but it led to a little bit of confusion for Io Sky. She took her mind off the what was going on and stuff like that, but she did take out Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez with the jump off the ropes onto them and then getting back into the ring. And then her and Liv get back into, what they were doing in the ring. Liv hits her with a Oblivia once, and Io kind of like flips out of it and stuff. And then nails her, and she throws it to the ring. And then she hits her with a second Oblivia, and that takes Io out. And Liv Morgan wins the match and retains the Women's World Title. Then we get the six-man tag. We got Jimmy Uso, Jey Uso, and Jacob Fatu going against LA Knight, Solo Sikoa, and Royce. The match was okay. Not to say, Solo Sikoa, man, I'll tell you, I kind of like Solo Sikoa. He was kind of showing out. I mean, he is funny in the ring and stuff like that. He's done some things. He kind of did the thing with the rerun of the yeet and everything, and then started yeeting a little bit and stuff like that. And then when he hit Nail Jacob with something, then he started doing that little dance that Jacob does and stuff like that. So I mean, it was pretty good. The match was, I think it was pretty solid and stuff. And then Solo, I mean, throughout the whole match, Solo was taking a lot of the heat and stuff. I mean, he was really taking a lot of the heat in this match and stuff. And then there was that one point where LA, gets frog splashed by the I believe Jimmy and stuff, and the LA Knight he kicks out of the frog splash and stuff. So they get going again and stuff like that. And then as they're, brawling a little bit out and everything getting a little out of control, um, LA Knight hits Jay with the BTF, and he covers Jay for the pin and stuff. So I guess, since, LA Knight, Solo Sikoa, and Royce, they win the match, and then LA Knight pinning Jey Uso, I mean, where does that put LA Knight now? Do they start shutting the door back on him, not giving him any shine, trying to go forward, because he did pin Jay, and Jay is the next, world champion and stuff. And so we'll just see what happens with that. I'm hoping it's not going to be the end of the dead. I mean, they did, the Usos lost for Fatu, so they still have to answer to the OTC. So that's going to be interesting on how that plays out and stuff. Does Roman start going back to the way that it used to be and stuff? Trying to dog them out and everything. Man, that's going to be bad if that happens. But anyway, LA Knight, Solo Sikoa, Royce, they win the match with a BTF to Jay, and LA Knight pinning Jey Uso. Then we get the match with Gunther and Nick Aldis. This match was very surprising. it was better than I actually thought it was going to be. I mean, yes, Gunther did dominate the match, but Nick Aldis, he showed out too. Nick Aldis got his thing in and everything. I mean, he was handling it. He was handling Gunther in this match, and stuff. Will we see Nick Aldis back in the ring at any time after this? Maybe one more, maybe I don't know, and stuff. But I think he might need to stick to the GM part of it and stuff. But anyway, Nick Aldis, he ends up trying to put Gunther in the Clover League. He's tried several times, but then he finally gets it on Gunther, and Gunther makes it to the ropes and he taps out. You know, and that's why I say Nick really gave it his best in there and stuff. But the ring general, once he gets them hands around that neck, I mean, once he gets it around there, he's gonna do some damage and stuff. So he did, get Nick Aldis, around the neck, started choking him out and everything. It looked like Nick Aldis was gonna get out of it, and then Gunther regains it back on him, and he starts choking him out, and then Nick Aldis, he taps out, and Gunther wins the match and stuff. But even after that, Gunther, winning the match and stuff like that, everybody, was, giving Nick Aldis his praise and stuff like that. And Nikki James, his wife, came in with the son and everything, and stood tall with him in the ring and stuff. So hopefully, Nick Aldis this would be his last, and he just go back to being a GM and stuff. But for what it was worth, it was a pretty decent match. Then we get Brie Bella, Paige, and Nikki Bella versus Fatal Influence, Jayce, Jayne, Fallin, Henley, and Lanny Reed. Now this match was a little sloppy. It was real sloppy, and it was a little, and it was boring and stuff. I mean, it was boring. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be and stuff. I mean, yes, um, Fatal Influence, they did win the match and stuff like that and everything. I guess it was called a rolling encore on Paige, and she gets pinned and stuff. And then after the match, it seemed like Brei and Niki and Paige, they were all celebrating, and all of a sudden, Niki turns on Paige, and on her and Brei, they start beating Paige down and everything. So we get the heel that everybody saw coming that was going to happen if they lost the match and stuff like that. And then Niki, Bella, and Brei, they would go heel and turn on Paige, and that's exactly what happened and stuff. And they beat Paige down and stuff, and that was the end of that. And then we get the undisputed title match, Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. This match, I'm gonna say, it was good. It should have been better, but I give it what it is. I mean, it was pretty decent. There was some good stuff happening in it. But it took so long. It took time and stuff. It was nothing like the match with CM Punk and Roman Reigns. No, it was not even on that caliber. But it was a pretty, decent match and everything. They did a lot of false finishes and stuff like that. And there was a couple of GTSs that were given, and Cody kicked out of that, and there was Crossroads, that was given, the frog splash that was given, and they were kicking out each other's heavy moves and stuff like that. So the match was a little bit, it was brutal. It was okay as far as the championship match, I guess, at this caliber, and with the two that was, doing it, Cody and Punk. So, CM Punk eventually wins the match with the GTS, everything, and he retains as undisputed champion. Then we get the Hell in the Cell match. Now this match, it was brutal. It could have been better and stuff. I was expecting a little color in this match because it is called Hell in the Cell. Hell in a Cell means, I mean, they did take out the table. There were some table shots and stuff like that. There were some chair shots and stuff like that in the match and everything, but there was not a lot of use of the ring, the cage. I mean, get thrown into the cage, get beat up on the cage. A lot of this match stood in the ring and stuff. They didn't take the opportunity that was right there that could have made this match one hell of a fight and stuff. I mean, there was some, F5s in there and stuff like that, choke slams and stuff in there, you know, and eventually, the fall from grace, to Brock Lesnar. But I think when Brock Lesnar started pulling all the stuff off the ring, he pulled the apron up and they took the foam pads off and they exposed all the wood and everything that was down there and stuff. And then he power drives, Oba on there and stuff. And after Oba kicks out and they get up and they start battling again, and then Oba gets him into the fall from grace. Oba should have put that move on the boards and stuff. He missed another opportunity to actually really take Brock Lesnar out as hitting him with the fall from grace on the boards. But it was a missed opportunity and stuff. But anyway, Brock Lesnar, he does win the match and stuff, but it never showed, what Brock Lesnar was going to do. Oba Femi wins, Brock Lesnar leaves the ring, and that was it. There was nothing else after that. But anyway, out of a 10, I'm just gonna give this. It was mid. It was mid. I'm gonna give it a 5 because some of the matches were good. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. I mean, please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, leave a comment. Let me know if you agree or disagree and stuff. And let's hope that night 2 is better, because night 1, like I said, it was a mid. All right, and with that, please, again, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, leave a comment. Let me know how you're feeling and stuff. If you agree or disagree on anything that I say, I appreciate it. And please hit the like button. All right, thank you for watching. God bless. Deuces, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.